So I'm a bit mixed up at the moment because I thought I had longer, so I prepared this slideshow and I'm going to try to freewheel it a bit and not concentrate on the slides. But essentially the idea is the same. There's a word for broken in PNG is bugger up. So, and Big Pella means huge. In fact, the word for their emergency department is Big Pella bugger up. So yeah. But yeah, it's a quaint language, you know. And Big Pella also means Lord. It doesn't mean big, but means Lord as well. So Big Pella, when they talk about Lord Jesus, they talk about Big Pella Jesus. Skip that one. All right, so it's a beautiful country, but there are some major problems there. Corruption. It's basically buggered up. It's really buggered up. The roads are buggered up. You know, the relationship with men and women are buggered up. Next one. So I just want to look a bit at history, the purpose of the trip. Gee whiz, time flying. It was like an exercise in frustration tolerance, really, but also an exercise in the victory of God, despite circumstances. Next one. So we're following the footsteps of Murray and Joan Rule, who went there in the 50s. Next one. They were called there to do some Bible translation. They wanted to translate the Bible, but also were pastoring. At that time, they flew into Lake Kutubu on a Qantas Catalina. Next one. And it was pretty primitive in those days. They addressed a lot of issues, not only translation, but the picture down there on the right is the first generation of babies that actually all survived that year. Wow. And that was because they managed to overcome this idea that you weren't to eat protein during pregnancy, you know, this sort of stuff. And they actually fed them on goat's milk. It took them a while to get them to drink goat's milk. Next slide. So they actually did their translation. They had a Bible school and they trained pastors who then pastored churches around the village. Next slide. I might skip this one. So they had a lot of other things to do. Building. They built an airstrip. They had to. They managed the airstrip. You know, they trained people in how to read weather and that kind of stuff. Next slide. And medical services. Next one. And they even taught them knitting, which I thought was an interesting. And they've got some pretty stunning, distinctive-looking guys with their knitted tops. So I think they probably don't need it to learn knitting, but anyway. Next slide. But the real sacrifice was that they raised their family there, and I won't go any more to say that there was that was a major sacrifice, and children carried a lot of the trauma from that. Next slide. So why interfere with their way of life? You know, why go in there and interfere with it? Well, they live in fear. They live in fear of spirits. There's fighting between clans and tribes. I mean, in the olden days, there was not enough to eat. And, you know, if you could go and kill your competitor and preferably eat him, you would be better off. So there's this, you know, always this tribal... There's interesting ignorance and damaging beliefs like the no protein in pregnancy sort of thing. But they also didn't understand just random chance and things like that it could rain today, it could rain tomorrow, someone could get sick with pneumonia, the other person might not. It was just the idea that chance was the way the world works. You know, we understand, you know, statistically there's a chance of this, a chance of that. They don't get that. Everything is due to spiritual influences. So the abuse of women and children. So women are a chattel. They are literally bought with a price. And the poor husband never actually pays it off. So everyone owes everyone. But, you know, it's... and then there's sorcery and also the fear of it. And lately, a recurrence of sorcery-induced or sorcery blaming and violence is being... And untimely death and disability. Next slide. So after they left and finished, the Evangelical Church of Papua New Guinea was established. Next slide. I got involved in 2007. This oil well test drilling rig was created some problems with leaking fluid into the lake, and Richard Rule, the son of the, asked me to go up there. It's pristine. There's 14 species of fish that occur nowhere else in the world. So, and so it turned out there wasn't that particular big a problem, but that's how we started going up there. Next slide. And today's issues are all of the previous ones, but now corruption is at a higher level, and this idea that your ancestors will bring the white men to you to give you stuff is a very prevalent idea. The big man leadership, and literally the more successful you get, the bigger you get. Elections are not elections. A book of voting forms are delivered to the village, and one man ticks them all. Okay, and the different people come to your village, and they got a bush knife on one side, a pile of 50 kina notes on the other side, and say, "What do you want? Do you want to vote us for us, or do you want the bush knife?" So all that is really what goes on. And so then, in Mendi, where the closest city is, there's a lot of destruction. A lot of houses were burnt down. Even an aeroplane was destroyed on the tarmac. There's also poor governance, so things are running out. So one of our pastors who were teaching, he had died of an asthma attack a few months ago because there was no medication at the hospital. They just don't know how to run a business. The system that's looked after them, their one talks, that is their relatives, you will never starve to death. You'll always have a place to lay your head because of your one talks, that is the people of the same language group. There's 800 languages in New Guinea. So your same language group, they'll always look after you. But by the same token, they can't run a business because if someone's got a need, money goes out of the business for that need, and so the businesses collapse. False beliefs, and social media has accelerated that. Next slide. A few years ago, we decided, well, what can we actually do? So we got together the leaders, and we asked them what they needed. We worked through a whole bunch of things systematically, and we've got about 60 potential projects, and we shortlisted about 5. And these were leadership training for pastors in the community, trade training, preservation of language, culture and stories, preschool education, and environmental protection. Next slide. And we started with, Joan Rule passed away and left a legacy, and we sent a container of tools up there to start this training school, Bible school, create tent maker pastors, to have a trade as well as training. Next slide. This trip, and this is our tour guide up there. She's turning 70 very soon, so she's a goer. Bible school, outreach to substance users, preschools, adult literary groups, and technical vocational. There's also a car hoist, Land Cruiser, that needed repair, and some other projects. Next slide. So 4-day trip, Brisbane, Port Moresby, Mount Hagen, and then drive down. So where it says 5 hours to drive to, that is not 5 hours, it's 10 hours, because the roads are actually, you can only drive about 30 kilometres an hour, over 250 kilometres. So, next slide. This is the Bible school now, and these are the books, Bibles that were donated. I think some people here donated a lot of those Bibles. Yeah. So, it's been going for 5 years now, and I've trained at least 15 pastors. Next slide. The ministry to drug users. So it's like God achieves his purposes, no matter what we do. So, accidentally, Lorraine visited a lady whose husband had died, and she was moving away to be with family, I think. And she said, I'm really worried about these young guys that I visit every Friday night. I take some food up to them, we cook for them. These guys are all on cannabis and alcohol. They use steam, they call it. They distill their own, fermented alcohol. And, they don't know what they're doing, and they're drinking methanol as well as alcohol. But so these yeah, Lorraine said, oh, let's go and see them now. So they cooked up some stuff and took it up there. And one of the guys who was the main leader there, he was the son of an evangelist but had really fallen by the wayside, a guy called Junior. And he was just so touched that we came, well, Lorraine came. And so he's on his own land, he set up this like prayer house, and it's actually become a rehab. Yeah, they've got pigs, they've got chooks, they've got places, and people can come in and stay there. And guess what village it's called? Quilla. It's in Quilla village. Yeah, and that was just a coincidence. But, next slide. And then there's preschool. So kids aren't starting school till they're kind of, the time's gone, till they're about 9 or so. So getting in early. Next slide. And then adult literacy. This is just a grassroots movement that started, and women just want to learn and be empowered. Next slide. This is the trade school. It says this man's teaching trigonometry in a grass hut with a dirt floor. Next slide. We had to train trainers because he was old. He put all his superannuation into this. He was an employee of an oil company. And these two guys are now the trainers. Next slide. We sent a lot of gear up there. There's Darren loading a container. We had a car hoist, boat, all this sort of stuff. Next slide. And Jeff, my brother-in-law, and the guy in the blue, he helped install this because he had one at home in Darwin. He's up in Darwin. And it was quite a task making sure you had the bolts in the right place. But and finally, we got the car elevator, which needed to be because there was a lot of work to be done. Next slide. So we also have an interest in midwifery. And just through chance, I managed to run into a lady who was... No, sorry, there's a different story. I've been talking to this guy, Glenn Moller. He's an Australian who's been working with obstetrics for 40 years in PNG, and we're trying to train the workers in the outstations in midwifery. And so we dropped in this stuff to Mendy Hospital. Next slide. And Jordan had a 21st birthday. That's our foster child. Next slide. And it was a real liberating thing for her to be up there. So this is the team plus our good friend Amon. This is in Port Moresby afterwards. Next slide. And you can get all sorts of delicious things. There's frozen sheep tongue. There's chicken giblets. There's lamb necks and lamb flanks, and also ox hearts. So next. But there's wonderful food up there. Next slide. Okay, 30 seconds and I'll wrap it up. Okay. When I grew up different to a lot of you guys. Or a lot of people, I assume. I had a very privileged upbringing. My father was a doctor, mother was a nurse. We had good education. And I was sent to a Christian school. I remember believing in God from the age of 4, because I just remember distinctly realising that my mother would die, and I had a total panic attack, and she said, well, it's okay, your soul goes to heaven when you die. Oh, what's a soul? It's just, well, it's you but no arms and legs. So I thought this trunk, the head would go up to heaven, and that was good enough for me, but I believed in God. But my belief in God was sort of like, it was this lower level, of creation. I believe in God as creator. I believe he made man, and we basically had a relationship with God. But my experience of being buggered up didn't really come till later. And my father passed away when I was 13, but he had a stroke 6 years earlier than that. Couldn't talk for 6 years. When he died, something clicked in my head and I wanted to be a doctor, and I put all my emotional development to one side. Anyway, all the chickens came home to roost at the end of medical school, and I had a mental breakdown. That's when I realised I needed Jesus. And I just want to point out something that Susie was talking about last week, is that he said, come to me all you weary and heavy laden, I'll take your yoke upon me. Now, we know that Jesus came to pay our sins, but we don't often think about, we don't think about Jesus as being alongside us every day. And you know what a yoke is? Sometimes you have single cattle yokes, you have double cattle yokes mostly. Take my yoke upon you. Jesus is actually alongside us, walking through the bugger up. So it's not just that I remember the relief when I because in my intern year, I was struggling, I was running, I was trying to be perfect, and I was failing. But then I realised, hey, I don't need to do anything else to please God. That's kind of like the sin is paid for. But then day to day, we need Jesus beside us, in the yoke, pulling us alongside. And I think that's where I'll end. Thanks.
Good job, Dave.
Thank you.